In the shadows backstage, a desperate pull ignites buried secrets, forbidden tension, and a love tested by betrayal and fear. The lights exploded like a dying star above the stage, and before Jimin could breathe, a hand shot out of the darkness and yanked him hard against a trembling chest. "Don't go out there." Jungkook's voice was raw, barely audible beneath the thunder of the crowd chanting their names. Sweat, metal wiring, and the faint scent of Jimin's citrus cologne tangled in the air behind the curtains. The stage manager's countdown echoed somewhere distant, 5, 4, 3, but Jungkook's grip tightened as if time itself had frozen around them. Jimin's heart pounded against Jungkook's ribs. "They're waiting," he whispered, though his eyes betrayed something else, fear sharp and flickering. "We can't just disappear." Behind them, the LED screen glitched for a fraction of a second, casting fractured blue light across their faces. Jungkook noticed. He noticed everything he always had. He leaned closer, forehead nearly touching Jimin's. "It's not the performance I'm worried about." That was how it began. The stage roared to life without them for a split second too long, buying them a stolen breath in the shadows. Jimin searched Jungkook's eyes and found chaos there, something unraveling, something he had been trying to ignore for weeks. Jungkook had been restless lately, packing hotel rooms at night, tapping rhythms against the window glass like he was counting invisible seconds. He hadn't been sleeping. He hadn't been laughing the same way either. "You saw it too, didn't you?" Jungkook murmured. Jimin hesitated. The memory flashed. A black envelope slipped under his dressing room door 2 hours earlier. No sender, just a single photograph inside, grainy, backstage, intimate, too intimate. A moment stolen from a private rehearsal weeks ago. Jungkook's hand at Jimin's waist. Jimin smiling up at him in a way that could not be mistaken for anything less than love. And written in red ink across the bottom, "We know." Jimin swallowed. "We don't know if it's real." "It's real," Jungkook's jaw flexed. "Someone been watching us." The music swelled louder. Their cue was gone. Improvisation saved the opening, but not their composure. Jimin stepped back first, slipping on his stage persona like armor. He always did. He was the one who could smile through fractures, who could transform anxiety into elegance beneath spotlight heat. Jungkook followed seconds later, but something in him remained in the dark. Under the blaze of lights, they performed flawlessly. Their choreography was sharp, bodies moving with instinctual synchronicity, but every touch lingered a second too long. Every glance burned. The crowd screamed louder, mistaking tension for chemistry. Only they knew the difference. Hours later, when the arena emptied and the corridors fell silent, except for distant rolling equipment, Jimin found Jungkook alone in the rehearsal studio. The mirrors reflected him endlessly, one Jungkook fractured into 100 versions, each one staring back with quiet fury. "You shouldn't isolate yourself," Jimin said softly. Jungkook didn't turn. "You shouldn't pretend this isn't dangerous." Jimin stepped closer, feeling the cool wooden floor beneath his bare feet. "We've always known it was dangerous." Jungkook finally faced him. His eyes were dark, storm-heavy. "This is different. They're threatening to expose us." "And what if they do?" Jimin's voice trembled, but not with weakness, with exhaustion. "What if I'm tired of hiding?" The words hung between them, heavier than any secret. Jungkook's fear wasn't about scandal. It was about control. Growing up under relentless scrutiny had carved caution into his bones, every misstep dissected, every rumor magnified. He had learned to protect what he loved by keeping it invisible. But Jimin was different. Jimin burned openly, even when he shouldn't. He collected small comforts, warm tea before bed, handwritten lyrics tucked in his jacket pocket, the way he hummed unconsciously when anxious. He wanted to live without flinching. "You don't understand what they'll do to you," Jungkook whispered. Jimin smiled faintly. "I understand what hiding is doing to you." A knock shattered the moment, 3 sharp raps on the studio door. They froze. Jungkook moved first, instinctively stepping in front of Jimin, protective, always protective. The door creaked open, revealing their manager, face pale. "We need to talk." In the conference room, the air was too cold. A laptop sat open on the table. On its screen, another image. This one clearer, this one undeniable, captured from a security camera angle that should not have been accessible. "There's a leak," the manager said carefully. "Someone inside the company." Jungkook's hands curled into fists. "Who?" "We're investigating." Jimin stared at the screen. He didn't look away. "And if it goes public?" Silence answered him. The following weeks became a maze of paranoia. Staff members avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when they entered rooms. Jungkook grew sharper, watching shadows like enemies. Jimin grew quieter, withdrawing into himself, scribbling lyrics that sounded more like confessions. One night, unable to sleep, Jimin wandered to the rooftop of their dorm. The city lights shimmered below like scattered stars. He felt Jungkook's presence before he heard him. "You always come up here when you're thinking too much," Jungkook said. Jimin didn't turn. "And you always follow." Jungkook stepped beside him. The wind tugged at their hair. For a moment, they were just two silhouettes against the sky. "What if we chose ourselves?" Jimin asked. "Not the image, not the fear." Jungkook closed his eyes. He imagined headlines, backlash, loss, but he also imagined freedom, no more flinching at every camera flash. "I'm scared," he admitted. "So am I." Their fingers brushed, then intertwined. The storm broke sooner than expected. The images were leaked anonymously. Social media erupted, speculation, outrage, support, condemnation. The company scrambled to contain it. Interviews were cancelled, statements drafted. Jungkook felt rage at whoever betrayed them, but beneath it was something fiercer, resolve. Watching Jimin endure waves of public scrutiny, seeing him straighten his shoulders despite trembling hands, ignited something protective and proud all at once. In a private press conference, with cameras poised like weapons, they made a choice. Jimin spoke first. His voice was steady, though his heartbeat thundered in his ears. "There are many kinds of love in this world. We've always tried to give ours through music." Jungkook reached for his hand openly. Gasps rippled through the room. "And sometimes," Jungkook continued, voice unwavering now, "love exists quietly behind the stage lights, but it's still love." The aftermath was not simple. There were losses, endorsements withdrawn, schedules altered, cold shoulders from people they once trusted. But there were also messages of support flooding in like a tide. Fans holding banners that read, "We are still here." The real betrayal was uncovered months later. A staff member bribed by a rival agency. Legal consequences followed. Trust, however, took longer to rebuild. Through it all, Jungkook changed. The anxiety that once controlled him softened into vigilance without paranoia. Jimin, too, transformed, less afraid of his own tenderness. On a quieter stage months later, during a smaller concert arranged deliberately for loyal fans, the lights dimmed again. Backstage. Darkness. Jungkook reached for Jimin, but this time not out of fear. He pulled him close gently, pressing his forehead against Jimin's. "Ready?" Jungkook asked. Jimin smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. "As long as you're with me." The curtains lifted, the light flooded in. And they stepped forward, not hiding in the shadows anymore, but carrying them with honesty woven into every note they sang. Behind the stage that once felt suffocatingly dark, they had found something brighter than fear, the courage to be seen together. The applause had not faded from their last concert when the backlash truly began. It started with a single headline flashing across every major portal at once. Confession or calculated scandal? The question mark burned more than any accusation. By morning, television panels dissected their press conference frame by frame, analyzing the way Jungkook's fingers tightened around Jimin's hand as if it were evidence in a criminal case. Jimin stood in the living room of their dorm, phone buzzing endlessly on the table, each vibration like a pulse of electricity. Jungkook paced near the window, jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. "They're calling it manipulation," Jungkook muttered, reading from his screen. They think we did it for attention. Jimin let out a hollow laugh, as if we'd choose this kind of attention. Outside, reporters had begun gathering again, cameras aimed upward like they could pierce walls. The air felt heavier than before the confession, as if honesty had not lifted a burden but shifted it into something sharper. A sudden knock at the door made them both flinch. Their manager stepped in, not bothering with greetings. His tie was crooked, his expression strained. The board is furious. Sponsors are threatening to pull out completely unless you clarify. Clarify what? Jungkook snapped. That we meant it. The manager hesitated. They want you to soften the statement, reframe it, emphasize friendship. Silence dropped like a blade. Jimin's fingers curled slowly at his sides. So they want us to lie. They want damage control. Jungkook stepped forward, voice rising. Damage control would have been protecting us from the leak in the first place. The tension in the room crackled. Even the hum of the refrigerator sounded too loud. Listen carefully, the manager said, lowering his tone. There are contracts at stake, staff livelihoods. This isn't just about you two. That hit deeper than any online insult. Jimin inhaled slowly. Responsibility had always wrapped around him like a second skin. If we retract, he asked quietly, do you think the storm will stop? No, Jungkook answered immediately. It'll prove them right, that we were ashamed. Their eyes met. The unspoken understanding between them felt almost physical. We won't retract, Jimin said at last. The manager looked like he wanted to argue, but something in their posture, steady, united, stopped him. Then be prepared. The next few weeks won't be kind. He wasn't wrong. Invitations disappeared. One by one, scheduled appearances were postponed indefinitely. A variety show episode featuring them was edited so heavily it barely made sense. Online, arguments erupted between fans, some defending fiercely, others claiming betrayal of a fantasy they had built. Late one night, after scrolling too long, Jungkook threw his phone onto the couch. I hate that they think they own us. Jimin sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at unfinished lyrics in his notebook. They don't own us, he murmured. They're just confused. You're too forgiving. And you're too ready to fight. Jungkook's laugh was sharp, because fighting feels better than waiting. Jimin looked up. His gaze was soft but unyielding. You don't always have to protect me like I'm fragile. Jungkook crossed the room in 3 strides. I'm not protecting you because you're fragile. I'm protecting you because you matter more than anything. The words hung between them, heated and vulnerable. Jimin stood slowly. Then trust me to stand beside you, not behind you. For a moment, Jungkook looked like he might argue again. Instead, he reached out, gripping Jimin's shoulders, not harshly but intensely. I'm terrified, he admitted, voice breaking slightly. Not of the headlines, of losing everything we built. We built it together, Jimin said. So if it falls with both of us. The next blow came unexpectedly. A former trainee appeared on a late-night broadcast claiming insider knowledge. He implied that the relationship had caused tension within the group long before the public confession. Clips circulated rapidly, edited to make every past glance seem suspicious, every backstage interaction dramatic. When Jungkook saw the segment, anger surged like wildfire. He's lying. Jimin watched more quietly, noticing the careful phrasing, nothing directly defamatory, just enough insinuation to fuel chaos. This isn't random, Jimin whispered. Someone's pushing him. Jungkook's mind flashed back to the rival agency involved in the earlier leak. They're not done. The company convened an emergency meeting. Lawyers discussed defamation suits. Public relations teams drafted counter-statements. But beneath corporate strategy, the emotional toll deepened. One evening, exhausted from interviews, Jimin found Jungkook alone in the dance studio again. The mirrors reflected frustration in every angle of his body. Music blasted too loud, movements sharp and almost violent. Stop, Jimin called out. Jungkook didn't. Jimin walked straight into the center of the room, forcing Jungkook to halt mid-spin. You're going to hurt yourself. Maybe I need to feel something other than this, Jungkook shot back. Anger isn't strength, Jimin said firmly. It's a shield. And what's wrong with a shield? Nothing until it turns into a wall. Jungkook's breathing was ragged, sweat dripped down his temple. They're tearing you apart online, and you want me calm. I want you clear, Jimin replied, because if we react blindly, we become exactly what they're painting us to be. Silence fell, thick and electric. Jungkook stepped closer, their chests nearly touching. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly. The question landed like a punch. Regret what? Choosing this, choosing me publicly. Jimin didn't hesitate. No. Even now. Especially now. Jungkook's eyes searched his face for doubt and found none. Something in his expression shifted from fury to fierce devotion. Then let them talk, Jimin continued softly. We're not a scandal, we're not a headline, we're two people who refuse to hide. Days later, an unexpected twist changed everything. A whistleblower from inside the rival agency contacted their legal team with evidence, documents, messages, financial transfers, proving a coordinated smear campaign designed to destabilize their group's global standing. When the news broke, public opinion pivoted sharply. Sympathy replaced suspicion. The narrative shifted from controversy to targeted sabotage. Standing in another press conference, this time armed with evidence, Jungkook felt the difference in the room. Cameras still flashed, but the hostility had thinned. This was never about spectacle, Jungkook stated firmly. It was about honesty, and we won't apologize for that. Jimin added, voice steady but emotional, if loving openly invites attack, then maybe the real problem isn't love. The statement went viral within minutes. Back at the dorm that night, the atmosphere felt lighter than it had in months. Not because everything was fixed, it wasn't, but because the truth had teeth now. Jungkook leaned against the kitchen counter, watching Jimin make tea with careful, almost ritualistic movements. You always make tea when you're overwhelmed, Jungkook observed. And you always watch like it's fascinating, Jimin teased gently. It is, you look peaceful. Jimin handed him a cup. I'm not peaceful, I'm just done being afraid. Jungkook set the cup aside and pulled Jimin closer, not urgently, not desperately, just firmly, like anchoring himself. We survived the worst of it. For now, Jimin corrected softly. Jungkook smirked faintly. You and your realism. Why? The next fracture didn't come from the outside. It came from within. The rehearsal room smelled like dust, sweat, and something metallic, like tension turning into blood. The rest of the members had just left after a long, strained practice, their laughter thinner than it used to be. The air had shifted in ways no press release could fix. Jungkook slammed the music off mid-track. The silence rang. You felt that too, right? He asked, staring at the blank mirror instead of Jimin. Jimin leaned against the wall, arms folded loosely but posture guarded. Felt what? The distance. Jimin didn't answer immediately because he had felt it. The hesitation in jokes, the cautious glances, the way conversations rerouted when he and Jungkook entered the room. They're adjusting, Jimin said finally. It's a lot for everyone. Jungkook turned sharply. Or maybe we blew up something bigger than just ourselves. The words strung. Jimin straightened. You think I don't think about that every day? Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling over. I'm not blaming you. It sounds like you are. Their eyes locked, heat crackling between them, not the soft warmth from before, but something sharper, something bruised. You were the one who pushed to go public, Jungkook continued, voice tight. I followed you. Jimin's breath hitched. You followed me, that's what this is now. I'm just saying. No, Jimin cut in, stepping forward. You held my hand in that press conference, you spoke, you chose it too. Jungkook's jaw flexed. I chose you, that's different. The confession was meant to be tender. Instead, it landed like accusation. Jimin's voice dropped, dangerously calm. So loving me was a sacrifice. That's not what I said. But that's what you're implying. The room felt smaller. The mirrored walls reflected two versions of them, two silhouettes leaning toward collapse. Jungkook exhaled sharply. I'm under pressure from everywhere, the company, the media, even inside the team, and sometimes it feels like I'm carrying it alone. Jimin's expression shifted, wounded, alone. You don't show it, Jungkook said. You just absorb it, like it doesn't touch you. It does, Jimin whispered. I just don't explode. The words hung heavy. Jungkook looked away first. Outside, rain began tapping against the studio windows, faint but persistent. Jimin took a step closer, voice trembling now not with anger but hurt. You think I'm not scared? I wake up every night wondering if I dragged you into something you'll resent me for later. Jungkook blinked, that hadn't crossed his mind. I don't resent you, he said quickly. Then stop talking, like you regret this. Silence again. The rain intensified. Jungkook stepped forward until they were inches apart. I don't regret you, I regret that the world makes loving you feel like war. The tension shifted, still hot, but no longer sharp-edged. Jimin's fingers trembled slightly. Then fight with me, not against me. Before Jungkook could respond, his phone vibrated violently in his pocket. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Jimin glanced down. That's the third time. Jungkook pulled it out, irritation clear, then froze. His face drained of color. What? Jimin asked, heart suddenly racing. Jungkook turned the screen toward him. A video. Unreleased footage from months ago, backstage again, but this time different. Not soft touches, not stolen glances. An argument. Jungkook raising his voice. Jimin turning away, visibly upset. The clip was edited, cropped, dramatized. The caption read, CICKS before the confession. They're rewriting everything, Jungkook breathed. Jimin's stomach dropped. Where did they even get that? The timestamp revealed it had been taken from internal rehearsal security. The leak wasn't just sabotage anymore, it was invasive. Jungkook's phone rang. It was their manager. He answered immediately, tell me you've seen it. We are trying to trace the source, the manager said, voice strained. But this one's spreading fast. They're framing it as proof that your relationship destabilized the group. Jimin stepped closer, listening. There's more, the manager added quietly. A reporter is claiming he has an interview lined up with someone close to you, someone willing to speak anonymously. Who? Jungkook demanded. We don't know yet. The call ended. The rain outside had turned into a storm. Jimin felt something cold settle in his chest. They want us divided. Jungkook looked at him, eyes dark. It's working. The honesty hurt more than the lake. Jimin grabbed his jacket. We can't stay here. Where are you going? To clear my head. Jungkook caught his wrist before he could leave. The grip wasn't gentle. Running won't fix this. I'm not running. It looks like it. Jimin yanked his hand free. You don't get to decide what my coping looks like. The argument flared again, hot and uncontrolled. You think I'm controlling, Jungkook shot back. I think you're scared of losing control. And you're reckless with it. The words echoed against the mirrored walls. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Jimin's voice broke, barely audible. I never wanted to hurt you. The storm outside roared. Jungkook stepped forward, anger dissolving into something rawer. You didn't. But you're hurting. I'm hurting because I can't protect you from this. Jimin shook his head slowly. I don't need protection, I need partnership. The word lingered between them like a challenge. Another vibration from Jungkook's phone interrupted the moment. This time, it wasn't a manager. It was an unknown number. Jungkook answered cautiously, "Hello." A distorted voice responded, "You should have stayed in the shadows." The line crackled. "If you think this storm is over, you're wrong." The call disconnected. Jimin's blood ran cold. What did they say? Jungkook repeated it quietly. Fear returned, not loud and chaotic, but focused. "This isn't just corporate rivalry," Jimin whispered. "This is personal." Jungkook nodded slowly. "Someone wants to scare us." Jimin met his gaze. "Is it working?" Jungkook's lips curved faintly despite everything. "Not enough." The storm outside began to subside, rain softening into a steady drizzle. Jungkook stepped closer again, this time without tension. He cupped Jimin's face, thumb brushing against his cheekbone. "They can leak arguments," Jungkook said softly. "They can twist footage, but they can't manufacture what's real." Jimin's eyes shimmered under the fluorescent lights. "And what's real?" Jungkook leaned his forehead against his. "That I'd rather fight the world with you than be safe without you." Jimin's breath trembled, but his voice steadied. "Then stop seeing me as a liability." "I don't." "Then trust that I'm strong enough for this." Jungkook closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. "Okay." Outside, the city glistened under the fading storm. Inside the rehearsal room, tension didn't disappear, but it transformed, not into perfection, into resolve. They weren't unbreakable. They argued, they faltered, they doubted. But when Jungkook pulled Jimin closer again, it wasn't out of fear this time. It was out of choice. And somewhere beyond the walls of the studio, beyond headlines and sabotage and anonymous threats, the real battle was shifting, because for the first time, they were no longer just defending love. The first thing Jungkook noticed was the car. It had been parked across from their dorm for 3 nights in a row, black, windows tinted too dark, engine off, but never gone. He stood behind the curtain, just enough to see without being seen. "They're not even hiding anymore," he muttered. Jimin walked up behind him, quiet as always when he was thinking too hard. "Maybe it's just paparazzi." "No," Jungkook said flatly. "Paparazzi move, they hunt, this one waits." The word lingered. "Wait." Jimin felt it too now, the subtle wrongness in the air, the kind that makes your skin prickle before your mind catches up. "Did you tell security?" "They said they'll monitor the situation." Jungkook's tone made it clear what he thought of that. Jimin stepped closer to the window, their shoulders brushing. "We can't let paranoia take over again." "This isn't paranoia." As if on cue, Jungkook's phone vibrated. Unknown number. Again. He answered this time without hesitation. "What do you want?" A low chuckle came through the speaker. "You look good in black." Jungkook's blood ran cold. Jimin's eyes widened. "They can see us." The voice continued, smooth and venomous. "Fighting suits you too. The rehearsal room argument was my favorite." Jungkook's grip tightened around the phone. "Who are you?" "You already know enough." The call ended. For a second, the room felt soundless. Then Jungkook hurled the phone against the couch, chest rising sharply. "They're watching us in real time." Jimin's pulse pounded in his ears. That means it's someone with access, not just company leaks, not just old footage. "Security," Jungkook said slowly, "or someone who hacked it." Jimin crossed his arms, mind racing, "Or someone close." The implication hung heavy. Neither of them, said the names forming in their heads. Later that night, unable to sit still, Jungkook insisted on going out. "It's past midnight," Jimin argued. "Where are you going?" "To find out who's sitting in that car." "That's reckless." "So is letting them stalk us." Before Jimin could stop him, Jungkook was already grabbing his jacket. Fine, Jimin said sharply, following. Then we go together. The hallway felt too long, the elevator ride too quiet. When they stepped outside, the air was humid, thick with city heat. The black car was still there. Jungkook started walking toward it. Slow down, Jimin hissed. The car's headlights flickered on. Then the engine roared. Hey, Jungkook shouted, breaking into a run. The car sped off, tires screeching against asphalt. Jungkook chased it for half a block before Jimin grabbed his arm hard. Stop. You saw that. Yes, and running into traffic won't fix it. Jungkook jerked his arm free. I'm tired of feeling hunted. And I'm tired of you trying to handle everything alone. They were breathing hard, standing in the middle of a dimly lit street. For a second, the city felt like a battlefield. Jimin's voice dropped, trembling with something deeper than anger. Do you know what scares me most? Jungkook didn't answer. That you'll get hurt because you can't stand not being the one in control. The accusation landed heavy. Jungkook's jaw tightened. You think I'm doing this for ego? I think you don't know how to sit with fear without attacking it. Jungkook stared at him, chest heaving, and you sit with it too long. A car passed between them and the dorm building, headlights flashing. Jimin stepped closer, lowering his voice. We need strategy, not impulse. Jungkook's gaze softened slightly. And what's your strategy? We draw them out. Silence. That's dangerous, Jungkook said. So is waiting. Back inside, they contacted their manager and insisted on tightening security. But more than that, Jimin proposed something bolder. We announce a live broadcast, he said, unscripted, from a location only the team knows last minute. To flush them, Jungkook asked. Yes, if the caller references it again, we narrow the circle. Jungkook studied him carefully. You're serious? I'm done reacting, let's make them react. The broadcast was scheduled 2 days later. The location was kept secret until 1 hour before going live, a small private studio owned by a trusted producer. As the camera light blinked red, Jungkook felt the tension coil in his stomach. Jimin squeezed his hand under the table briefly, subtle, grounding. They spoke honestly during the broadcast, not about the threats, but about resilience, about trust, about not letting fear dictate identity. The chat exploded with comments, support, criticism, curiosity. Halfway through, Jungkook's phone, placed face down on the table, buzzed. He froze. Jimin noticed immediately. After they signed off, Jungkook checked it. Unknown number. Message, cute studio. Brick walls suit you better than glass. Jungkook's face went pale. Jimin grabbed the phone, reading it twice. They knew. That location was shared with 12 people, Jungkook said quietly. Then one of 12 is leaking. The realization hit like a punch. Back at the dorm, tension crackled between them again, but different this time, focused, sharp. We need to involve the police, Jimin said. They'll say it's online harassment. This isn't just online. Jungkook paced. If this gets out, it becomes another scandal. You're still thinking about headlines. I'm thinking about escalation. Jimin stepped in front of him. Look at me. Jungkook did. We cannot handle this alone. The vulnerability in Jimin's voice broke through Jungkook's stubbornness. After a long pause, he nodded. Okay. The police report was filed quietly. 2 days later, the twist came. Security traced the number to a prepaid phone purchased near their company building. CCTV footage revealed the buyer, hooded, masked, but the body language was familiar. Too familiar. When the footage was enhanced, the gait, the posture, the slight tilt of the head became unmistakable. It was someone from the extended production crew, someone who had worked closely with them for years. Jungkook felt physically sick when he saw the face clearly. "Why?" he whispered. Jimin stared at the screen, disbelief mixing with betrayal. Maybe they thought exposing us would, what? Protect the group, earn money, revenge. The crew member was brought in for questioning. The confession was messier than expected. Not pure malice, not clean revenge. Resentment. "They changed everything," the person said under interrogation. "The dynamic, the image, the future. I gave years to this team, and suddenly it was all about them." Jungkook's hands trembled when he heard that. Jimin's chest tightened. It wasn't a rival agency this time. It was envy. The news wasn't made public immediately. Legal processes began quietly. Back at the dorm that night, silence filled the space between them. Jungkook leaned against the kitchen counter again, but this time he looked exhausted, not angry. "I keep thinking about what they said," he murmured. "That we changed everything." "Did we?" Jimin took a slow breath. "Yes." Jungkook looked up sharply. "But change isn't destruction," Jimin continued. "It's evolution, not everyone survives it." Jungkook walked toward him slowly. "And if more people turn against us?" Jimin met his gaze steadily. "Then we face it, together, not as a scandal, not as a mistake." Jungkook reached for him, hands sliding to his waist, pulling him close with a mixture of intensity and relief. "I hate that loving you keeps turning into war," Jungkook whispered. Jimin rested his forehead against his chest. "Maybe it's not war, maybe it's exposure, we're just visible now." Jungkook tilted his chin up gently. "And if visibility makes us targets?" Jimin's eyes didn't waver. "Then let them see exactly who we are." The fear hadn't vanished, the world hadn't softened. But something else had. Trust. Not the naive kind, the earned kind, the kind that survives arguments in mirrored studios, anonymous threats, betrayal from inside.